Now, you've likely heard all over YouTube that you have to group your kick and bass together to glue them, but in electronic music, this often just kills the punch and clarity and separation and power, and it's probably hurting your low end more than helping. So today I want to explain what is kick and bass group compression, what it does, why people think it's a good idea, and why it doesn't actually work out so well in electronic music. But why listen to me? Well, I've toured 33 countries, had multiple number ones on Beatport, signed hundreds of records to the world's top labels like Armada, Spinnin', Toolroom, Defected, as Bassclef and Analog Soul. And since 2016, I've been helping producers like you finish great songs fast and get a pro sound. So what is group compression in general? It's just placing a compressor on multiple sounds. And it's probably important to clarify at this stage, what is compression to? It's just evening out volume. The most common use we use it for is to even out loud volumes from quiet volumes. So it's going to look for loud volumes generally, and it's going to turn them down until they're about the same as the other one. And in this case, often it's the kick that's loudest, and we end up pulling it down to about the same volume as the bass line, or close to, and then raising up the volume of all of it. So in a way, this is kind of what makes it feel glued, because the levels become more even, but you can simply do this with volume as well. And you might prefer that because there's some downsides. So let's jump into Ableton and I'll show you what I mean. So this is what I'm talking about over here. See how I've got like kick and bass, and they're all put into a group. And then over here, they're all running into this compressor. This is what you might commonly see. Now let me show you the problem. I'm going to wind in some compression here. This plugin Volume Buddy is going to keep the volume matched. And listen to what happens, and watch on the screen too. You're going to see how it responds to the kicks first. It starts pulling down the volumes of the kicks, and especially the louder transients of the kicks. So let's check this out. Starting from normal, and we'll wind in compression as we go. Here, when I turn it off, that thump comes back, around about 100 hertz, that impact that we need from the kick drum, that separation that we need from the kick drum. Because remember I said when we compress things together, we kind of glue them together and make them feel like they're one instrument. But often we need actually separation in our kick and our bass. And when we're compressing them together, that's one of the big problems. We lose that. Now, this should help this stuff visually make sense now, because you can see how it's turning down the volume of the kick. We're not really raising the volume of the bass. We're pulling the kick down. As compressors do, they look for the loudest sound, which is most likely going to be the kick. It's going to pull that down. It's going to soften it, and everything comes up in volume, but you're losing all that punch. And I know so many people keep talking about how they want punchy kicks, but they do this, and it's just canceling all the punch out of their song. By the way, if you're digging these tips, drop a like and comment to let me know, and then I can keep sharing more of what actually helps you. And hit subscribe if you want real-world tested and proven mixdown and production advice made for electronic music, rather than the usual echo chamber of cookie-cutter YouTube myths that celebrate complexity instead of results. Oh, and if you want to go deeper, check out my online music production school. We've got full courses on mixdowns, finishing tracks, and a great free community too. Links down below. Anyway, let's continue. Now, I'm sure some of you are already thinking, why don't we just increase the attack? Well, let me show you. It might help a little bit in some ways towards 10 milliseconds or so, but it's not really going to be enough. It's still going to rip down the kick too soon and choke it and give a weird feeling to the attack, a weakened feeling to it. And if we keep going even further beyond 10 milliseconds, it's not really compressing much anymore by that point, because we're letting so much untouched stuff come through. Let's give it a go, starting at 1. So you can hear there's that little bit more bite because we've slowed down the attack, but it's still just sucking the life out of the kick. Let's turn it off. It just kind of exaggerates the click of it, but you lose all that thump. Let's make the attack longer. And now we're hardly even compressing properly. And it still doesn't have the right kind of thump. Really, this is causing the same problem of why I don't recommend you compress these nice, juicy kick samples in general too. But yeah, if you had an acoustic kick drum that wasn't well shaped, and because it's played live and it's not sequenced, maybe a compressor is your only option to control and shape the volume of it. But because our music is often made with samples, often sequenced, we're better off fixing it there in the sampler. And the samples are often so good, or they should be if you pick them properly. And if you want a video about that, there's a link about how to pick the best kick drum just up here. When you've got these great kick samples, they don't need compression, and most of the time the compression just destroys them. And when you do kick and bass compression together, it's the kick that's getting affected the most, and it's getting often destroyed. Now, the other thing you could potentially do is pull back the wet and dry to let a bit of the original transient through. That's slightly better, but I've got a better way I want to show you. Let's show you right now. One of the cool things that I think people like about gluing their kick and bass together with compression is the way the bass becomes more sustained. The bass starts to feel like it rises up and gets more squished and compressed and exciting, right? So you're better off just coming and doing that on the actual bass track if that is what you're going for. So over here, I've got the bass here. Let's hear it by itself. So I'm doing some compression there that's giving the bass more sustained feeling. It's making it less transient. Let's do that with the kick in as well too here. Turn it off. Now, one's not necessarily better than the other. It depends what you're going for in your particular mix, but this does give us a more sustained feeling here. And when you have that kind of sustained feeling with the compression and then you do some nice sidechain afterwards, you end up getting this thick feeling bass line that's separated from the kick by the sidechain, but it's nice and full in the gaps. And that's a lot of what people, I think, are trying to achieve when they're trying to glue their kick and their bass together. This way too, you definitely keep the separation and the punch of the kick, and it protects you from the next thing I want to show you as well too, which is that when you're compressing your kick and your bass in a group like this, if you then go back and change the levels or even EQ settings of the kick and the bass, it's going to change how it triggers your compressor. So if you start pushing that kick up louder, you're going to struggle to get it louder because it's just going to hit that compressor harder. And as you turn the bass up louder, you might start burying the kick as well too. So you lose a lot of individual control by compressing them like this. And it's going to make balancing your kick and bass much more difficult and much harder to get separation and punch. I've got a theory that some people might be doing this because they're not hearing their song running through a limiter already. Now, if you're working on your track and it's not running through some kind of clipping and limiting to give you a preview what the master sounds like as you're mixing, then yeah, you might be craving a little bit the feeling of that kick and that bass feeling a little bit glued. But when you do have your master change set up properly, it's going to do a lot of what you're trying to do here for you. Your kick and bass are the loudest things in the mix. They should be most of the time for dance music. And they're going to hit that limiter and clipper the hardest, and they're going to get controlled there. So they very rarely need extra compression again before they hit that. Keep in mind too that if you squash your kick and bass before they hit the master bus, that's going to pull them down and give the opportunity to other less important sounds to get in front of them with their transients. And then when everything hits the limiter and clipper, it might pull your kick and your bass down and push them backwards in the mix. Now, next up, I want to tell you about the one main thing that group compression is the best on is drums. On your drum group. But there's a bit of a caveat to that. It depends what genre you make. Now, I highly recommend if you're working in any kind of house-based genre, so house, tech house, trance, anything like that, then you should leave your kick outside of your drum group because the kick has so much energy in these genres. It's so bassy and heavy. It puts so much pressure on the compressor. You're better off leaving it out so that you can then go harder with your compressor on your drums that don't have the kick in there. So your hats, your claps, your snares, your cymbals, all that stuff, you can compress them a bit harder, even distort them a bit too. Now, if you're doing a broken beat genre like drum and bass, break beat, trap, hip hop, sometimes as well too, they generally work better with a kick in the group because the kicks are lighter and smaller and punchier because things are mixed in a different way. With the house tracks, the kick is ruling the sub and the bass line is lighter. With the drum and bass and broken beat tracks, the kick is higher, shorter and punchier, with the bass line being heavier and below. Now, a lot of people don't know these subtle nuances, so they try these certain things and it doesn't work out. It's important that you know these details. It's important that you have a system. Otherwise, a lot of these tips don't work, right? So yeah, if you're interested in me doing a full video on how I compress my drums for different genres, let me know in the comments because this video is already getting too long. But more mixdown tips are coming next week. So hit subscribe so you don't miss out on them. And tell me in the comments, what's the one thing in your mixdown or production that always trips you up? See you soon.